Okay, so Marvel is obviously known for their physical transformations of their characters. Essentially, Chris Evans as Captain America, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. Shoot, even Paul Rudd had a six-pack as Ant-Man. I mean, even in this movie, Thor had to go from dad bod to god bod. So essentially, they are known for making their phenomenal transitions. And I know that Chris Hemsworth's transition was more so CGI to just his regular self, but it's still a transition nonetheless. But the transition that will essentially have me baffled until I see another one is Natalie Portman. How on earth did she go from this to this? What is going on there? Like, somebody let me know. Like, Barry Bonds didn't even have access to these type of steroids that could turn this into this. Like, no, like, we got to figure out what's going on there. If you guys know in the comments what her routine was, I know I could have looked it up, but I was too lazy. I could have looked it up before this to see how it happened. Is it CGI? Is that what's making her arms so big? Because I don't think any workout routine transformation can turn Natalie Portman into that. So you guys help me out in the comments there. And while you guys are figuring that out for me, what I'm going to be doing is this. Reviewing Thor, Love and Thunder. Hey guys, it's your guy in the chair here, and this is my review for Thor, Love and Thunder, starring Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, Tessa Thompson, and Christian Bale, and was directed by Taika Waititi, and we're following our favorite god of thunder on adventures around the universe with the Guardians of the Galaxy, at least in the beginning of the film. We're following his adventures with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Thor is feeling this kind of sense of emptiness inside, and essentially, he's a god, so, they always run into this storyline where they're immortal, so, after being alive for thousands of years, it's kind of hard to, essentially know who you are or what your purpose is in this life because you're alive forever. And while Thor is dealing with all those problems, essentially he also has to deal with the fact that there's a god butcher out there named Gorr, whose goal is very simple. He's trying to just kill all the gods, and essentially we get this movie where it's a lot of fun. It's electrifying, no pun intended or pun intended, however you want to take it in. I'm just ready to talk about it, guys. I had a phenomenal time in this movie. Okay, so to start with what I liked about the movie, I'm going to talk about Gorr the God Butcher. Christian Bale absolutely murdered this role. I have been yearning for a great villain for a very long time, and granted, we did get one not too long ago in December with No Way Home, but essentially Green Goblin was already used before. Gorr, for me, was essentially another way to get Marvel a great original villain. And what I mean by that is essentially not Thanos, who was on like the larger scale of villains, who essentially had to be the big bad, but essentially like a Killmonger. Like I felt like, and the Mandarin was very good in Shang-Chi as well, but I feel like Gorr really set the standards for a great villain since Killmonger. Like, he was absolutely horrifying. Christian Bale did not waste a minute of his screen time. He did not waste a minute of his dialogue. Everything he did had a purpose. Everything he did was scary, for the most part. Everything he did was scary. It was terrifying. It was horrific. The special effects that they had with Gorr, I mean, Taika Waititi really did his thing with this character. I mean, Christian Bale as well, but like the special effects that they give Gorr, and I just loved everything about this character. I mean, like I said, I'm a big part of what makes my superhero movie experience, high or low, is the villain plays a big part in that. I mean, I essentially want to leave. I love having a great villain, a great compelling villain to make the story enhance itself, and Gorr gave us that. Like, you want a movie, or essentially you want a villain that makes you feel like there are stakes at hand, and Gorr did that. Gorr delivered that. There were times where, of course, I thought certain characters wouldn't make it out of the movie, certain, essentially events would happen, and Gorr really set the tone to where you don't know what's going to happen to these characters. You don't know what's going to happen by the end of this film, and I really like the fact that Gorr just brought a whole terrifying element. And big shout out to the whole Shadow Realm fight thing. That scene was incredible the entire time. I mean, the color scheme. First of all, this is a beautiful, well, not first of all, because I already gave you my first point, but essentially, this is a very beautiful movie to look at. This is a beautiful movie to watch. There's so many great colors on the screen. I mean, honestly, look, if you can see this movie in IMAX, because IMAX is going to do this movie all the justice it needs, essentially. You can see it in standard format too. It's probably gonna be as, still good, but the IMAX really makes it pop. I just gotta put it that way. Please see the movie in IMAX. And Gorr, one of the best villains I've seen since Killmonger. Like, I think essentially, if I had to do a ranking of it, Gorr would be in my top 5 MCU villains. Like, I enjoyed him that much. I thought he was absolutely terrifying. He was horrifying. The special effects on him were great. Just Christian Bale did an absolutely phenomenal job, and he had an opportunity to essentially show his fear in more than, you know, certain ways. This is a spoiler-filled review, but essentially there is a scene where he captures children and he has a chance to show off his horrific elements to them and things like that, and you just get to see it through. Like I said, one thing I was nervous about in this going into this movie, I thought Christian Bale wouldn't get an ample amount of screen time, because sometimes the MCU has a track record of they have great villains, but they don't get like the screen time they essentially deserve. Christian Bale made use of all the screen time he got. I thought he got a very decent amount of screen time, actually. He got more than I thought he'd get, and he just absolutely did. He killed the role. I mean, I don't have anything else to say. Another one of my favorite parts of this movie was the Thor and Jane element. Look, Thor and Jane have been one of my favorite MCU couples essentially in the entire series, except for, you know, Steve and Peggy. They're the only ones that are above that. Sorry to Pepper and Tony, but you guys are probably third and fourth, you know, maybe fourth behind Scott and Hope, but Thor and Jane have just been one of my favorite couples, and it was honestly a lot of fun to see Natalie Portman back on screen. Granted, I remember rumors when she was doing Thor 1 and 2, especially 2, that she wasn't really enjoying, or she wasn't really having like the screen time, or like she was just having issues on sets and things like that, and I didn't really think we would have a return, or I didn't really think we would see her essentially after Ragnarok, saying that they broke up. But here we are years later after she was revealed as, you know, going to be playing the mighty Thor, and I didn't know how that was going to play out. Look, first of all, the Thor and Jane dynamic is absolutely beautiful. I love watching them, you know, rekindle their fire as a couple. The chemistry is still there from the original movies. Like I said, when I found out the rumors, or essentially, you know, Natalie Portman having issues on the old Thor sets, I was very surprised by that news, because I could never tell in the movies that she was, you know, uncomfortable, or she didn't really want to be there. I couldn't tell that, you know, she was acting as if, like, you can tell when an actor doesn't want to be there, and essentially, I'll give you an example of a performance in the movie. Jennifer Lawrence in X-Men Dark Phoenix. We knew she didn't want to be there at all. Natalie Portman never gave a performance that bad to where she was like, no, I don't want to be here. I'm phoning this in. Like, she actually gave an effort in the previous movies, and I appreciate that. But it's very fun to see her and Chris Hemsworth back on screen, and they're actually rekindling their love. And it's just a very fun adventure to go on with these two characters. And I gotta be honest, like I said, other than the fact that Natalie Portman's, you know, bulking up just completely threw me off, her as the mighty Thor is very fun. She's having so much fun as this character. Like I said, she's actually, you know, as Jane, she's able to carry out a fantasy of hers. She's always probably wanted to carry that hammer ever since she's met Thor, and she's probably always wanted to, you know, try those powers out and be an Asgardian for real. And she actually gets to do that in this movie, and it's just honestly a lot of fun. It's incredible. I'm honestly speechless, because I really wasn't expecting Natalie Portman to, you know, essentially affect me in this kind of way. She's a great actress and all, and I just, you know, I never knew what it would be like to see Natalie Portman as an actual superhero, and for her to play the mighty Thor of all characters, like, kudos to her for making the movie so much fun. Kudos to her and Thor, Chris Hemsworth, for just making their relationship a lot of fun to watch throughout the movie. It's honestly the heartbeat of the movie. Their relationship is the heartbeat of the movie. I know it's called Love and Thunder. Of course, you're going to get the love and romance part, but they're really the heartbeat of the movie. Valkyrie is honestly amazing. She doesn't get as much screen time as she did in Ragnarok, obviously, because, you know, this is more the Jane and Thor story rather than Valkyrie, you know, doing her thing. But Tessa Thompson is phenomenal as Valkyrie. Korg, Taika Waititi, it's a lot of fun. He's funny. I just enjoyed this movie. I thought it was absolutely incredible. I'm going to get to one more point, and then I'm going to talk about this whole MCU controversy, guys. Look, we're not going to really agree on... I think just it's probably safe to say from here on out, not everybody's just not going to agree on whatever ratings Rotten Tomatoes put out, whatever critics are saying, not saying. At this point, the MCU's in complete and utter chaos as far as the reviews and, you know, people's reaction to these things go. So we just really need to come come to terms with the fact that we're just not all going to have the same opinion, guys. All right, so another element of this movie that I absolutely adored was the final battle. Essentially, I'm not going to go into spoilers. I'm going to be real quick about this. It's involving kids, specifically Hemdall's kid, Idris Elba's kid from the previous movies. But essentially, it's involving his kid and, you know, all these other kids, and the scene is absolutely phenomenal. If you've seen the scene, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to spoil it, but the final battle has some kids, and it's Thor and Gorr, and it's Jane, and it's epic. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, guys, this movie, that's the best way to describe this movie. It's a lot of fun. And honestly, for those people who are going into this movie and they're coming out saying the tones are inconsistent, or essentially they're saying, like, you know, this isn't, like, it's all over the place, it's a mess. I gotta be real with you. I feel like when I'm reading the negative comments for this movie, I'm reading the comments for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That's the movie I feel like they're describing. Now, I will say this. As far as what I didn't like about the movie, the main stuff, the main things that I didn't like about the movie were from the beginning. And essentially, like, when people say that this movie doesn't necessarily set a direct tone, I don't think that's true. From the very beginning, the movie lets you know we're going to hit you over the head with very dumb, stupid jokes. Like, a lot of the jokes in this movie are hit and miss. I'd say, for me personally, maybe 60% of them hit, 40% of them missed. And for the 40% that missed, they missed by so much. Like, people were laughing in the beginning, specifically when the Guardians were in the movie. I felt like once the Guardians, and essentially this isn't really a spoiler, like, this isn't a Guardians movie, so the Guardians weren't going to be in this much. They're only in, like, the first 20 minutes of the movie, and they're not even, you know, having all that screen time within the first 20 minutes. But essentially, once the Guardians leave the movie gets so much better for me. Like, I enjoyed the movie so much better without the Guardians in it. I thought that essentially they were just, you know, they have to wrap up that storyline because Thor was with them, so essentially they just have to get that part out the way. Once that part is out the way, though, the movie skyrockets. Like, I enjoyed every single part. Like, the movie has so many redeeming qualities. Like, honestly, I'll tell you this. The only part I really don't like about this movie are the dumb jokes. Like, the 40% of the jokes that don't hit, they miss so badly. Like, it's very bad. Like, they're very bad jokes. Like, people were laughing at some stuff, and I'm just like, guys, this isn't funny. Like, I don't know if you guys are just doing this to get on people's nerves, or I don't know, but, like, a lot of this isn't funny, so I don't know why we're reacting that way. But other than the dumb jokes, there was a redeeming quality for all of that, whether it be a special effect, whether it be character development from, you know, Jane and Thor, whether it be essentially Gorr coming on screen and just stealing the absolute hell out of the whole show. I mean, there was a redeeming quality for every bad joke, so I really couldn't even be mad at it. Like, I only have a problem with the jokes in this movie. The rest of it, absolutely incredible. Like, it was everything. It's essentially everything that was promised in the trailer. Like, essentially, yes, the tone is set in the beginning of the movie. Like, you know they're going to be dumb jokes. Essentially, they're showing you that they're kind of copying Ragnarok's formula. That's the only reason I can't necessarily give this movie the nudge over Ragnarok, is because it's copying Ragnarok's formula. But why mess up a bad thing? Like, Taika Waititi made a phenomenal film the first time. Why, you know, really mess up a bad thing? Give that same little formula this time, which he did. All he let us know was the jokes are just going to be coming in a lot more rapidly than they did before. And, you know, just enjoy yourself. I don't understand why people have to really associate this movie with multiple tones. Like I said, it's just really bad jokes. Other than some of the bad jokes, man, the movie is absolutely incredible. Like, it's a lot of fun from start to finish, except for, like, it's a lot of fun from start to finish because we're starting off with essentially Gorr's backstory, and that was great to see. Oh my gosh, like, this is a very compelling villain. I'm very glad Taika Waititi delivered on the promises he said that Gorr was going to have. Like I said, he was making sure that Gorr was going to stand out as a villain, and we got that standout. I loved every second of Gorr. I can't even say enough about it, but like I said, guys, essentially, as far as what I didn't like, it's literally just the dumb jokes. I probably said that like 3 times now, but that's really just it. Like, people are really just complaining about nothing at this point. But like I said, at this point, I do agree with people that, you know, essentially Phase 4 has kind of been a roller coaster of things because we don't necessarily have a big bad yet. Now, essentially, Loki showed Kang. So Quantumania, when Ant-Man comes out, that's going to have that part. But I feel like until we get to the Quantumania, we're not really going to have, you know, the sequence events that we had leading up to Thanos, like we did in phase 1 through 3, essentially. We're not going to have that kind of build up until, I guess, till Quantumania. But so I can agree with people on that, factor that, phase 4 has kind of been inconsistent in that sort of way. But this movie in particular, I felt like was a huge step up from Doctor Strange. Like, looking back on Doctor Strange, I consider that movie a mess. I consider that movie strictly fan service. This movie delivered on everything that we love about not only Thor, but just all of these characters in general. Like, this movie just delivered the fun, it delivered the necessary tone, it delivered a great villain, and I just overall just had a phenomenal time with this movie, guys. It's so good I just don't understand, like I said, I'm not really going to understand everybody's, MCU tropes nowadays. Like, it's best to just formulate your own opinion. Don't ever let Rotten Tomatoes ruin your day. Like, I was walking into this movie and I was very nervous because I saw that 71%, and I wish Rotten Tomatoes wouldn't affect me the way it does sometimes, but I was like, oh man, am I not going to like this movie? Is the inconsistent tone thing going to pop out? And like I said, all the negative comments I saw about this movie essentially either reflected Multiverse of Madness for me, or I saw those negative comments pan out, but they were only in the first 20 minutes of the movie. Like, I saw the inconsistency, I saw the bad jokes, and they're stupid jokes at that. Like, Thor, Christian Harloff, a guy I look up to, he essentially said that, in his review, he said that they made Thor kind of an idiot. Like he's just very dumb. And in the first 20 minutes, that shows. But once we get to the part that essentially, once Jane steps into the movie, like, that is Thor's heart. Jane has always been Thor's rock. Once she steps into the movie, like I said, the movie skyrockets. Like, I loved everything about this movie, and guys, like, I simply just can't say that enough. Like, it's incredible, it's amazing. Just don't let people get into your heads about this movie. Walk in with your own opinion, walk in and just have a phenomenal time. Sit back and just let this movie wow you, because it's going to do that. This movie has a lot of wow factors. Like I said, for every bad joke, there was a redeeming quality that just made me forget about those jokes, and I was just captivated by what I was watching on screen. And I just had a great time with this movie, guys. And for all those reasons and so many more, guys, I'm going to give Thor Love and Thunder a 4 out of 5 stars. Guys, thank you so much for watching my review. Look, Thor Love and Thunder, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Where would you rank Gorr in your villain MCU tier list? Guys, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, subscribe. This is your guy in the chair. More content coming to you soon.